Hello class, and we are ready and willing to start lesson 15. Lesson 15 deals with using files. So we're going to talk a little bit more about using files. You were introduced at the very end of chapter 3. You were introduced to the idea of using files, but I'm going to go over it again, bring it back to your forefront in your mind so that you have it and remember it, okay? So naturally, we start our program out with our name, program description, lesson 15, using files, and date. So you need to be typing along with me. So this will help you doing homework, and it'll help you with tests. Your header files are all together. Pound include IO stream that lets you use CIN, cout, all those input, output things, get, all those things. Then pound includes string, lets you use string variables to hold long words like your name. Pound include fstring. This is file stream. You're going to create a stream of data with a file. The library that is needed to work with files. So if you want to work with input or output files, you have to have this header. And if you don't, it won't work, okay? And of course, naturally, are using namespace std. And then we're going to go down to our function main, the start of function main, and then I have a few notes here for you because we're going to talk a little bit. See, can I make that smaller? I guess not. So working with files. In our programs, it's often useful to have our data stored outside of our programs for later use. Before, we had several data types, char for character, int for integer, double, and strings. You remember those. You've been using them, right? Okay, but now you've got some more data types, two more. You have the input file stream data type and the output file stream data types. Input file stream is for input files, so whatever file variable you want to use, file name, you can use, but if you want it to be input, you have to have input file stream declare it, right? It's a data type. And this is output file stream, so you have to declare it with output for your output files. All right, so here's some examples. Create an output file variable called ofile. Now we're creating a variable for output files and we're calling it ofile. Could I call it outfile or OF? Yeah, I could because it's a variable, right? And here I declare it. Output file stream, that's my data type, and ofile, there's my variable. Okay? Open a file for output called output.txt. Before you can use files and actually be able to do any kind of work with them, you have to open them. So we're going to use the output file stream variable that you declared to open a file. So here's our variable we declared right here, right? Output or ofile dot open. So we're telling the C++ to open it, and the name of the file we want it to open is output.txt. Notice the quotes around it, double quotes and parentheses. So we're telling it, here is the name of that file, and it's a text file, txt. You usually create that with like Notepad or something, WordPad, something like that. And you can create that file. This opens the output.txt file so that you can output data to it, okay? Then let's create an input file variable called ifile. Input file stream, that's our data type. ifile, that's our variable. Could I use infile? Yes. Could I put if? Yes, because it's a variable. But I wanted ifile, okay? So that's my variable. And the same thing as output, we have to open it before we can read data from it and read it into our program and input the data in our program. So we do ifile, which is the variable we named it, dot open, and we open it. And then the actual file name of the file itself is called input.txt. And once again, double quotes and parentheses in your semicolon. That opens that file so you can read data into your program from it. You save the input and output files in the same location as your C++ source file. If you don't, it won't be able to find it. Or if you decide to like save it on a thumb drive or something, you can do that. If the input-output file is somewhere else, you need to put that location so it knows where to find it. Here's an example. If you put it, say, on a thumb drive and your thumb drive letter is an H, then you could put ifile.open, parentheses, here's your quote, and then you put H for your thumb drive file, right? Backslash, backslash, and then the file name, actual file name, input.txt. If it was inside some folders, you would have to list those folders or directories as well, okay? So you have to make sure you tell it where it is if it is not with your actual CPP or C++ source file, okay? Let me show you here. See this little folder and that little back arrow? If I click that, you'll see where I have added an input.txt. See, it says text document. That's an input file. And here's my output.txt text document. And then here is C++ source, my CPP file right here. So I have them all together, so I don't have to put where it's located in mine, right? Because I kept mine all together. But if you don't, you have to put where it is located here. Okay, so here's code to make sure you reach the end, or you're actually opening and using your input file. So if not ifile is open, so if it's not open, then cout input file not found, and that lets you as the program know it's not finding your input file. So I suggest you add this whenever you're working with input files so you know it's having trouble finding it. Now here's a little short program. String first name, last name. Cin is the way to get information from the keyboard, but ifile, or whatever variable you chose, input file stream variables, right, is the way we get information from a file. So I would say ifile, here's my operator, first name, ifile, operator, last name. Similar to cin, only now we're using ifile because we declared ifile up here at the top, right? So that will read that file, the first name and last name. And I have that in here, and if I open my input file, you'll see that I have Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Daisy Duck. You know, I made up all these names with that first name and last name, first name, last name, first name, last name, first name, last name. Okay, so there's my input file. So notice how when I opened that file, it created a tab here. So here's my input file, here's my output file, and here's my actual coding. Okay, so I have these tabs now. I can look at them. All right, so cout first name, and I have a colon, and then here's whatever that, here's the variable, and it'll have whatever those are, right? And then cout last name and a colon, and then whatever the last name was. Okay, what this does, isn't this interesting? It looks like cout, doesn't it? But it's our output file first name colon, and what is the first name? Output file last name colon, and whatever the last name, right? And then we close our files when we're through using them. That's necessary, so remember to close them when you're through working with them. All right, so I'm going to show you what my output file looks like. Now notice I only got one of those names on the list because I don't have a loop to go back and read the next one and read the next one. You should probably try that, right? So first name Mickey, last name Mouse, and that was the first thing on my input file, right? Mickey Mouse. And if I had a loop to read the next one, then the next one would say first name what? Donald, and last name Duck. Okay? And now all I did was go to Notepad and make these up, type them up, and then save it in here. I copied and pasted in here with my C++ source file. That's all I did. Okay? So you need to practice with using files because you are going to have an assignment where you have to make an actual receipt, right, that prints out to a file. So make sure that you practice this and play with it. Try it. Try to make a loop and read all those file names. You can make up your own names. You don't have to use my Disney character names unless you just want to. And play with it. Get good at it. Understand it. All right, that's lesson 15. I'll be talking to you again soon.